are these people?
Speaking of indie media today, something happened this past week, and I wanted to note this, and this will get into our lightning round. This is extra that I had not planned to bring. I made this note earlier today. A week ago marked the 4th anniversary since I started a Substack newsletter. I'm going to beat you.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you. Substack newsletter near you.
Thank you, Rachel. By the way, the New Yorker today announced that they are officially now moving and starting on Substack, their publication.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No. Some tips. I just want to give some people some encouraging tips from what I've learned over the last 4 years. And I've published over 2,000 posts at that platform. Keep at it even when nobody's reading or engaging. Try to stay consistent with your frequency of posts and posting times to respect your subscribers. Because they signed up for something, you got to kind of commit and deliver on what you commit to. Figure out what works for you and your schedule. Don't be afraid to take chances, but keep people in the loop about your thought process and why you're doing what you're doing. They subscribe because they want to know about that. Connect with like-minded people using notes. It'll help you expand your reach. Transparency is credibility, meaning that the more you share about your process and the behind the scenes, that only gives you more credibility with people. And don't be afraid to take a week or a month off. Nothing goes up in a straight line. And again, I want to thank every one of the 3,600 plus subscribers to Indie Media Today and over 2,000 subscribers to INN Newsletter for supporting my mission to amplify sponsor-free independent media. And I've added that sponsor-free because there's a lot of people claiming they're independent, but they kowtow to sponsors or they omit stories on behalf of sponsors. We do not. We tell the stories we think need to be told. We don't answer to anybody but you. And this shows, again, nothing goes up in a straight line. This is the amount of traffic. It ebbs and flows, but you can see overall the trend line is going in the right direction. All right. That's the number of views per month since I started 4 years ago. And that's the number of subscribers and the growth in subscribers since I started 4 years ago. When my original newsletter got shut down, that was right here in April 2023. And it's only gone up since then. Now, that's just for Indie Media Today. I did the same thing for INN Newsletter. And again, after that first month, we had a fall off, but you can see it consistently trending in the right direction. And the subscriber count, since I started publishing a daily in August of 2023, has gone much, much higher at a much faster rate. So thank you again. Really appreciate everybody signing up there. There's links there to do that. I'll put that all in the description afterwards. So lightning round, lightning round, lightning round. Okay. What's been happening with China is we've kicked ourselves in the dick unnecessarily.
China.
Yeah. Trump decided that he wanted to implement these tariffs. We talked about that a few weeks ago. China had responded by putting reciprocal tariffs down. But this person at Counterpoint China, Mario Cavolo, published about a week and a half ago that the Trump admin still doesn't understand what happened, that China actually left the room. All right. And I don't know if I 100% agree with this, but I do agree with a lot of it. They still don't understand what's happened. The Trump's team still doesn't get it. Point number one is that China left the room. They already responded to the tariffs. They are responding. Of course, there's going to be some damage, but they were prepared for this day. They're not negotiating. They literally have just moved on. That's a decision, not a negotiation. This person's prediction is that U.S. tech will collapse and is collapsing. Amazon will collapse, and it will be much worse for the U.S. and the world. There is no gray area here. There is only one move.
I don't know about Amazon collapsing.
Well, because Amazon is heavily dependent on China.
Yes.
And on drop shipping from China.
Yeah, but I think it'll be all right.
I agree. All All right. China has clearly stated what that move is for Trump to remove the tariffs. Again, this was written on April 17th. And what's happened is basically he's backed off on pretty much all the tariffs. Point number 2 is that they are either utterly incompetent or they're doing this on purpose, controlled demolition. With $8 trillion due for refinancing, they need interest rates to plummet. Treasury Secretary Bessent made it clear that their focus is on the bond market, which most people don't pay attention to. Bonds are rising, which means interest rates are falling worldwide. But U.S. bonds are not cooperating. So they need to cause economic upheaval to cause interest rates to go down because this $8 trillion is due for refinancing. And that plan is completely backfiring with disastrous results. They actually believed that that wouldn't happen, but here we are. The situation is getting even worse than it was at the beginning. Is it possible that that's exactly what they want? Well, if you, according to Whitney Webb and the World Economic Forum and all them with the Great Reset, yes, controlled demolition of the global economy. They need this economic chaos. They won't allow any good news. They aren't announcing any good news. They're just doing the opposite. Look at this. This is fucking crazy. And this is why I brought this chart. This is an overlay of 2 years of data for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. All right. In 1987, and we all remember what happened in 1987, overlaid with the current market. We literally just had a 1987 level market crash, and the charts show it.
Yep.
The Dow Jones just fell down to 0, and it's going to be a fine swell day.
Except for everybody's retirement. All right, point 2 is that why? So the world runs to safety of U.S. bonds and the interest rate gets down to 3% so they can refinance that $8 trillion. But the rest of the world was already at its wit's end with America's nonsense and they're not cooperating. So that interest rate's actually going up, not down. The 2 most important parties in this story are the ones not cooperating with this crazy plan, the bond market and China. So next. This market disaster is going to continue, and the Fed is going to have to once again step in. And when they do, it will fix nothing. The U.S. market will roar higher on the announcement, but the big economic and trade damage is already done and ain't going to be reversed. All right? And that they're not going to fix it. Not Trump, not anyone. These economic deteriorations and gyrations are simply going to continue morphing for decades. Great. Whoever marches to the front of the U.S. political leadership line, they're not going to fix much at all. Yes, they're just going to put stewards in front of it. The system is as broken and corrupted as it gets by design. They won't default either. They'll just keep rotating the ways that they add money to the system, whether it's QE, that's quantified easing, or reverse repo, or whatever names they give it. Or what they'll do is they'll just shift to the digital dollar and they'll make it all tether or whatever. And while the trillions of dollars now in the hands of the private billionaire individuals, hedge funds, corporations, and private equity will never re-enter the system, never to be part of M2 money supply, meaning after they've crashed its economy, they sucked it right out and they're not going to put it back. I want to reference a name here that I don't really, that I probably shouldn't, but Max Azzarello called exactly this a year ago or so. That this was a Ponzi scheme, that Bitcoin was designed to suck all of the real capital out of the system and put it into the private banks for the wealthy and never put it back. Yes, the stock market will crash and go up and crash and go up and double again, while the cost of everything on average in the country will be 50% higher than it is today, whether that's 5, 10, 20 years down the line. All right. The part I can't figure out, nobody can, is what will come first, a deflationary spiral type of disaster or a stagflation type of disaster. Either way, we're heading into one of those disasters. Right now, it's looking like stagflation. Why? Because the world is quietly but surely leaving the U.S. bond market. So that means come hell or high water, real market interest rates are not going to go down. Furthermore, there's going to be inflation of goods prices. So that's a double whammy, pushing up real interest rates no matter what the Fed does. What a fucking mess. All right. I like this article. I don't 100% agree with all of it, but I think that it had some really good points and premises to it. And I definitely think that China has left the table for the most part. They don't need the United States to survive as a country and as an economy. All right. Nope. BYD, ever heard of a car company called BYD? They're the biggest car company in the world, and they don't operate in the United States at all and sell passenger vehicles here. They sell more than Tesla, more than Ford, GM, Toyota, Volkswagen, every other manufacturer. They don't sell a car here. And our government has been fighting like crazy to keep them out here by issuing protectionist tariffs against Chinese-made cars, because the minute they do come into this market, every other market's cars are toast. They are going to take up, because we don't have affordable cars right now, and they make affordable cars. They make a $15,000 car that is as nice as any $30,000 car available here right now. And that scares the shit out of every car maker that's not BYD here. So they've lobbied the federal government to issue protectionist measures like a 100% tariff or more on Chinese vehicles entering the United States, or a ban on Chinese vehicles entering the United States. It's garbage. And meanwhile, who hurts? The U.S. hurts, because the public doesn't get access to these superior cars for less money, and we end up having to pay more for the jacked up prices for the luxury cars that are out there, and even the basic transportation. The average price of a car is, I think, over $30,000 or $40,000 now. Indie Media Award honoree Kyle Anzalone from Antiwar, also Indie Media Award honoree. I did not see many people covering this over the weekend. There was a Russian general murdered by a car bomb in Moscow before talks with the U.S. That was Friday. A top Russian military commander killed by a car bomb near Moscow. Yeah. The attack happened just hours before U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff met with Putin. All right. Putin's a madman, right, Jamal Bowman? Uh-huh. On Friday, Lieutenant General Yaroslav Moskalik was killed by a car bomb in a city near Moscow. He served as deputy chief of the main operations directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. All right. That's the aftermath of the car bombing. Unbelievable. All right.
In a
they called
residential area next to a children's playground.
Yep. It's considered a terrorist attack. All right. The main question is how to stop the war in the center of Europe, the world. We see so many victims every day. Even today, a Russian general was killed in a terrorist attack in Moscow. Ukraine has conducted similar bombings in Russia during the war, and I would think that this would be laid at the feet of Ukraine. I saw other people suggesting that this could also have had UK British influence, that this is very much a reminder of a British op. All right. Trump has repeatedly stated that he wants to bring the war to an end. In recent days, he called on Kiev to recognize Moscow's control over Crimea. Zelensky firmly rejected this proposal. Of course, we saw what happened at the Pope's funeral over the weekend, where they had very few words for each other. And Trump basically had, I believe, 5 words, which is get it done. All right. You fucker is the other two. Not really. This statement is very harmful to the peace negotiations with Russia, in that Crimea was lost years ago under the auspices of President Barack Hussein Obama. And not even a point of discussion. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. Russia has gotten Crimea back. I also wanted to give a shout out to an account that I really have enjoyed a lot on Twitter. Not many people have shown this account. I think that it's been brilliant. Some of our friends in our Twitter DM threads have been sharing them. And this is for all the Trump supporters out there who fell for it again. And some of these are just fucking brilliant. So it started out that it was this one. It was the MAGA hat guy wearing a big fell for it again award. And they would basically quote tweet All right. Here, Trump's team is considering war options against Iran, including airstrikes, right? So they fell for it again, right? So it started with the one, and it was like that for several weeks. And then they started pumping out new ones. I don't think we can come up with the demand. And that was, again, if you earn under $360,000 per year, your taxes are going to go up under Trump's tax proposals. Yep, fell for it again. All right, this one I was not crazy about because this also was, that if you were a Palestinian supporter that voted bullshit. Although if you were pro-Palestine and you thought Trump would do any better, you fell for it again too, I hate to say, because he's canceling student visas. Mm-hmm. So if you did vote for Trump because of that, you fell for it again. All right. Then they were just piling up so bad, they're literally coming out your pores. Okay. Then they're encompassing you to the point that we can't even see anything but your hat. All right. Then it really starts to get crazy. It's, I guess we're working overtime. Right. Then they're so buried that you can barely see them under the pyramid. Then you have the dinosaurs going extinct from all the Fell For It Again awards that are falling on them from the sky. Okay. Then you've got the screeching, screaming, MAGA hat wearing lunatic. And then you've got the cry some more lunatic, Fell For It Again. Okay. Then it evolved even further and got darker. Here's, this one I think was when the stock market went down. NASDAQ down 1,000 points, down at 3.8%. This is the MAGA hat wearer staring at his computer screen, fell for it again. Okay. Then it's another deep, dark hole. All right. A research scientist at a major university who voted for Trump, regretting it. And here, fell for it again award again. Then they get even darker. Here's Trump's MAGA shooting Uncle Sam in the head, and still MAGA cradling him and falling for it again. The fell for it again.
I think this account's
Cthulhu.
kind of bullshit myself.
Well, you can.
But
all right. Chase Miller has been sharing them. They're breaking the machine now. Oh fuck, they're coming out so fast they can't keep up. This one is one of my favorites. The crypto bros, once Bitcoin started to take its fall, because of course that's going to happen because it's a Ponzi. All right. Then it starts to get really silly. All right. This is Apple plans to source more iPhones from India. So that's definitely what MAGA wanted, right? And then there's, well, would you look at the time? More stock market falling. Oh, that's one I hadn't seen yet. That's good. All right. Then finally, it starts to get really silly toward the end. But my favorite one is, where's the Israel one?
Always really silly.
There's one where he's embarrassed. This is good. The SS fell for it again because we now need a container ship to carry all the Fell For It Again awards. So, and then of course you've got SpongeBob. All right, he's in there with SpongeBob that says, "Hey man, you're polluting our fucking neighborhood with all these Fell For It Again awards." Very good. All right. So again, Fell For It Again _ Fell For It Again A on Twitter is all of these. And of course, Taylor Swift, she voted for Trump, right? Yeah, no, fell for it again. Nope, she's not pro-Trump either. All right. So that was a little fun. World Socialist website. Again, a story I had not heard anybody talking about. A death at JFK8. Everybody remembers JFK8. They very famously voted to unionize Chris Smalls. Then he sold them out to the Teamsters. Interestingly enough. All right. Amazon workers. A worker died at JFK8 Fulfillment Center in Staten Island last Wednesday evening. Following the death, workers on 2 successive shifts forced management to temporarily shut the facility for most of the following day. Workers were able to win compensation for the closed shifts from management. The worker has been identified as Leone Salcedo Chevalier, 34, a father of two. He was struck by a box truck as it was backing up into the loading dock at around 11 p.m. Salcedo Chevalier was rushed to Richmond University Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. Driver remained at the scene. Preliminary accounts suggest that he was in the driver's blind spot, and of course no arrests have been made because it was an accident. Accidents do happen. It's terrible, but both the victim and the driver were employed by subcontractors and were not direct Amazon employees. How convenient. Several thousand employees work at JFK8, which made international news in 2022. The walkouts were nominally sanctioned by ALU, which has since merged with the Teamsters Union, but the push to close the facility was largely spontaneous. This reflects not only the determined mood among workers at the facility, it expresses the seething anger among workers across the country, especially at the Trump admin, as they carry out its war against the working class. All right. One worker said that it closed for 4 hours from 6 hours until 5 the next day. All right. Oh, actually, no, it's not 6. It's 18 hours. When the new shift started, workers were angry. The bulletin board was filled with notes talking about the lack of respect shown by management toward the guy who was killed and about forcing us to go back so quickly after it happened. They pretended to care about safety, but they don't. All right. They put the responsibility on individual workers. They walk around telling people you're not wearing the correct shoes and little things like that. But that's not supposed to prove they care about safety. But they don't do anything when it comes to bigger safety issues. Another one said, you hear, my friend works at Costco. They have fluorescent vests with flashers attached. So even if you're in a blind spot, the driver knows you're there because they can see the light from the flashers. They don't use those here. You just get the vests. All right. Someone else didn't even know about the death because they were just coming to work. They should have shut the whole place down. And you've got other anecdotal stories from workers. All right. It's just the latest in a long line of work-related injuries and deaths at Amazon. We talked very famously about the death in Carteret that Chris Smalls was even silent about, I remember. He showed up like a week later at the facility, but they weren't part of JFK8. In the sweltering summer, here you go, 2022, 3 Amazon workers at a facility in New Jersey, facilities died due to excessive heat. All right. Then you've got Shannon Allen. WSWS has reported extensively on conditions at Amazon. So have we. We talked with Heather over from the Albany warehouse. We've talked with Michelle, who still, I believe, works occasionally at JFK8. She does shifts there. Amazon responds ruthlessly to all expressions of opposition. This was shown, for example, in its unpaid suspension of as many as 80 workers who refused to return to work immediately after a fire at JFK8. I remember we covered that. Meanwhile, Dick Rocket Bezos has thrown his support behind Trump because he'll support whoever's in the White House, who systemically is dismantling all regulatory agencies, even partially limiting the operations of American corporations. All right, so fuck Amazon, fuck Trump. And again, a worker died at JFK8, and I don't think anybody else talked about it, but we're going to, and we're going to mention it. And then finally, we've got our friends that do need help with GoFundMes. I mentioned this last night. These are the only ones I'm bringing from last night. Also tonight, our friend Chanda with her GoFundMe fighting small cell lung cancer. She's up to $915. We donated $50 from INN last night. Again, that's part of what you guys do is you help us be able to give mutual aid to people that we feel really need it. And we are willing to sacrifice a little bit ourselves. You know, look, we're all a community here. Is it more important that we pay our Restream bill or that Chanda gets $50 towards her GoFundMe so that she can pay for her bills while she's fighting cancer? Because fuck cancer. All right. And similarly, and thank you to Natalie, by the way. I saw that Natalie had donated to Andrew's GoFundMe for AnnaMari for her brain tumors. They are going to Cincinnati, and they're going to have to spend weeks there, and that's going to be out of pocket. I actually messaged Andrew and told him that we talked about it, and he said, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you. And dude, no, we appreciate you, and it's literally the least we can do. We love you, man, and we're trying to get you to 5,000. We still know that 5,000 is still a drop in the bucket, and we'll keep pushing that number higher and higher, hopefully, because we know you need it, and we love you, man. Again, I told you about the newsletter, so 7 C's. Go listen to that. I also am going to put out the Uncensored Boats as a podcast. I decided that I'm not going to do boats every week as a podcast in a newsletter, but I will put the uncensored ones out. I think that makes sense to do, because in case anybody ever does decide to pull it down, that's one place they're never going to pull it down from. So check out INN newsletter for the Uncensored Boats, which I'll put out Thursday night, which I'll put out sometime on Thursday. Well, we're not doing shows. Also, IndieNewsNow.com, our news aggregator site, where we are also live. So you can watch us live whenever we're live at INN, ad-free, platform-free, right here at our website, IndieNewsNow.com. You also can get a feed of all of the latest news, and I have well over 100 sources pumping in 24/7 articles, videos, and podcasts. So subscribe for free. Go there, set a bookmark, and make that your daily homepage. IndieNewsNow.com. Again, Hard Lens, Clips, Payday Report, Sabby Sabs, JB Font, RBN, Derek Bros, Last American Vagabond, AM Wake Up. All right. Then you've got Common Dreams and Truth Out. It's all here. Also, all the How Do We Miss That clips and segments, IndieMediaToday.com feeds here, INN newsletter feeds here, and I'm bringing in things like Freight Waves to bring in logistics data and logistics news. All right, I'm bringing in The Dissident and Sludge. All right, I'm just scrolling down. Robert Inlakesh from Wind Press News. All right, and Consortium News. It's all here. Even Do Dissident's Substack. You can find it here at IndieNewsNow.com. All right. One more time, if you are able to, Anna means, again, I would really rather you gave to Chanda or AnnaMari. If you have a couple more bucks and you want to help out INN, that'd be great. Okay. Cash App, Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. All right. I love you, man. Golden Monarch, I very much appreciate Indie Reef, INN. We're among the few indie outlets that have talked about debunking Michael Saylor. It's funny, disturbing, not enough indie media has even said this, or even knows who Michael Saylor is, or what MicroStrategy is, or what they're trying to do, and the Ponzi scheme that MicroStrategy is. It is amazing. All right, Cowboy Kitty, yeah, fuck cancer, kill your egregores. I know Chanda loves you too. Fuck cancer. Desert Mantis, thank you. Really, everyone. Sean, love you, man. Support independent media because we need it more than ever, folks. Love you all. See you soon.
Keep listening to what little birds have to tell you. Good night, fam.
We are out of here.
Bye, Felicia.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, why play civil when all these dead won't make you listen? What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.